Welcome to New Hampshire's Education Data Literacy video series. This video is one of 11 that guides you through various components of the Education Data Literacy Framework. This particular video will discuss how to engage stakeholders in data use processes in your program or district. During this video, we will talk about several key aspects of stakeholder engagement, including what effective stakeholder engagement looks like and why it's important, identifying stakeholders and their roles, and determining methods of engagement and tips for meaningfully engaging stakeholders. Let's start by defining stakeholders. A stakeholder is any individual or group that has an interest in any decisions or activity of your program. You probably work with a few different stakeholders such as administrators, families, maybe a board of education office, nonprofit organizations, or even funders and board members that have decision-making authority in your program. All of these people or groups can be considered stakeholders. When thinking about engaging folks around data use, you'll first want to identify who to involve. Think broadly and be sure to include program or district leadership, teachers and other practitioners, support staff, families, other community members, and potentially children. Including people with different perspectives will promote creativity, innovation, and shared ownership over activities and outcomes. As you seek out various perspectives, you can try categorizing or mapping your stakeholders. For example, you might consider the following categories: beneficiaries, or people who could benefit from your program or district's work, people who you expect to support the work, as well as those who may potentially provide critical feedback, stakeholders who provide resources that support your work, or vulnerable groups, or people who may be positively or negatively affected by your work or decision in some way. Of course, this is not a one-size-fits-all approach, so you may also have stakeholders who don't fit into any of these categories. You can put them into an other category or create a new description for them. This may include other groups with similar missions or objectives as yours. Effectively engaging the people you have identified goes beyond just sharing information and providing updates. It requires meaningful two-way communication with people with diverse perspectives, experiences, and roles who may be impacted by your work. In practice, this may include relationship building, communication, and consultation. But before we dig into those areas, let's talk about why it's important to engage stakeholders in data work. Using data is fundamental to providing educational supports and services to children and youth. Data use does not happen in isolation as one single aspect of a program or district's work. It is woven throughout all the many decisions made about program improvement and how services are provided. These decisions impact program and district leadership, teachers and program staff, families, and children themselves. So you should seek meaningful input from all types of people who are engaged in or impacted by your program or district's work throughout the entire process of using data to make these decisions. These stakeholders can contribute knowledge and experience about the practical ways in which data is collected, analyzed, reported, and used. Their input can inform the decisions you make toward realizing your program or district's vision for data use. You have identified your stakeholders and categorized them based on their perspectives such as beneficiaries, decision makers, resource providers, and more. Your next step is to consider how you may engage all of those individuals and groups identified. There is great value in leading by convening. Bringing multiple perspectives to the table can help build capacity and interest as well as transform ideas. Not all stakeholders will be engaged in the same way. Think about the relationship you hope to get out of this process, whether it is to inform, network, collaborate, support, or even transform. The relationship goal you have for each stakeholder will determine the method of engagement. Here are some questions to consider when making those decisions. What will their roles be? This may be informed by the mapping process you have already completed. How will you engage them? Will something simple like having them review data and give feedback be enough? Will they provide input as part of an advisory group? Or will they be an advocate or champion for the work supporting political will and accessing additional resources? What key messages or information do you want/need from them? Consider the expectations for the partnership. What aspects of your work will they or will they not provide input on? What will the timing of their engagement be? Will you engage them in an ongoing way or for a limited time? Do you need them to inform a plan you're developing, or will they provide feedback on the implementation later on? How will you manage their engagement? What kinds of communication tools or strategies will you use? Who is responsible for making sure they remain engaged and their voices are heard? There are lots of factors that might inform your decisions about how to engage stakeholders. This slide shows a framework for how you might determine your engagement approach based on the amount of power each stakeholder has or is perceived to have and their level of interest. The bottom x-axis displays the level of interest of the stakeholder, while the y-axis displays the level of power they have or are perceived to have. In the matrix, you can see that a stakeholder with the least level of power and least amount of interest can be engaged by just monitoring. Meanwhile, a stakeholder with a lot of power and interest, that is, in the top right-hand box, should be managed closely. This is just one example of how you might determine what approaches you will use for engaging different individuals or groups. Once you determine how you will engage your stakeholders, there are some key principles to keep in mind. As you seek to gather diverse perspectives, go beyond representation. Just because someone is at the table doesn't mean their voice will be heard. When engaging diverse stakeholders, consider power dynamics at play. These dynamics might impact how comfortable people are actively participating and how much value is given to their input. When starting out, talk through commonly used terms or concepts to establish a shared language. When engaging stakeholders on data, you may need to build data literacy to make sure people can interpret and understand the implications of what you are sharing. You may find the resources listed on this slide helpful as you begin to engage stakeholders of various types in your data use processes. We hope that this video and the accompanying resources help you begin or continue your journey in effectively engaging stakeholders in your data use processes. Thank you for watching.